And it looks like we're live. Gus, what is going on, my man?
What's up, baby? I am happy to be back. I am hoping we don't run into any technical difficulties this time, but I am happy to be back with you. Seems like it's been forever since we last reconvened and talked some Beaver football, so I'm excited to get right into it. How are you doing today, Hef?
I'm doing good. I'm also excited after last week's little mishap. I'm ready to get back into it and give the fans what they want, and that's some Beaver football. That's what we all want.
Well, Hef, let me start with this topic. I feel like through our 3 episodes, we've done 3, seems like more because of the break, but whatever, we've done 3, and we've talked a lot about specific guys on the defense, a lot about the quarterback position, a lot about running back. You know, one guy we haven't talked about at all who some people have brought to my attention perhaps deserves some more credit, or at least deserves some more airtime, is Coach Johnathan Smith. He's done a large part. I wouldn't say he's turned this program around already, but he has certainly put us in the right direction over his first 2 years here. So I want to just pose this question to you right off the bat. Is Coach Johnathan Smith good enough for us to succeed and be a respectable team in the Pac-12 long term?
Yeah, of course. I think Coach Smith is definitely the person that has taken this culture and flipped it on its head. He's gotten us back to maybe not the strongest of a winning program, but I mean, you got to look at the seasons before he came in where the Beavers were winning barely 1, 2, not even close to 3 games. So, I mean, getting the program to step in the right direction is definitely, you know, something that you'd love to see. And he's a good coach. You gotta look at the guy and his experience. I mean, coaching at Idaho, Boise State, UW before he came to Corvallis to coach the Beavers. So the guy's got experience, and I think he's probably besides the players, he is the key component for Beaver football to get going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, I'm right there with you. I've kind of thought this. I've been toying around with this in my mind the last few days, and I'm the first one to give credit to players when it's due. I think players are what win you games. Ultimately, they win you games, right? But in every single sport, who are the teams? If you could have either a star player or ownership that is committed to winning, what would you rather have? You'd probably rather have that ownership, right? Because you know they are going to at least try to put a winning product on the court, on the field, whatever it may be. As a college football fan, would you rather have that star recruit, or would you rather have a coach who can consistently put a good product on the field? And so I'm kind of leaning towards the point where Coach Smith is arguably the most important person for this program, both in terms of this year and in the long term. And I do think he is the right man for it. I think he is going to continue this upward trend he's got us on, and he will bring us to a point where people look at Oregon State and they don't look at us and they don't disrespect us. You know, the primary reason for why I think this is what he's already been able to do in his career working with quarterbacks. You look at him, he was the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator at Washington before he came here. Jake Browning was a 4-year starter there as a QB. The whole time he was there, Coach Smith was his offensive coordinator. Jake Browning, he is basically doing nothing in the NFL. I don't even know he's in the NFL. No disrespect to him. Great college player. But, I mean, this guy was in the Heisman conversation. He had 94 touchdowns to 34 interceptions and 150 career passer rating. That's pretty extraordinary. And when you can take into consideration that that's all based on Johnathan Smith's offensive scheme, that's impressive. Furthermore, you look at what he did with Jake Luton. He took a guy who he had 2 years before Smith came and 2 years with Coach Smith. His 2 years before he came, I want to pull up these numbers so I got them right, but the 2 years before he came, he played 10 games. He threw 5 interceptions and 5 touchdowns. After Coach Smith became his head coach, Luton played 19 games and had 38 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So in playing 9 more games than he did before, his interceptions went down and his touchdowns went up by 23 or 33. So I think that just shows that I'm not saying Coach Smith is Mike Leach. I don't know if he's the next quarterback whisperer, but he certainly has a capability of instilling that confidence in a quarterback. What is your take on that?
Yeah, then there's no doubt that he knows exactly what he's doing with his quarterbacks. I mean, he's the sole reason that back in 2000, 2001, that Oregon State even made it as far as they did and had as good of a record as they did. Um, but even with outside of the quarterbacks, I mean, it's the coaching staff that he has around him. It has the players. It's the personnel. I mean, his first season might not have been the best first season, going 2-10, but you got to think coming into your second year, you're already coming into a program that is used to losing, and you lead them to a 5-7 record, and you're one win away from being in the first bowl game that the Beavers have ever that first bowl game the Beavers have been in since 2013. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it would be ridiculous to say that Coach Johnathan Smith isn't not maybe the sole reason, but he's definitely the main reason that Beavers football is on the rise.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, what is an area you'd like to see improvement with Johnathan Smith as a coach? We both agree he's great with the quarterbacks. In large part, he's pretty good, I'd say, developing an offensive scheme and managing an offense. But where would you like to see him improve primarily?
I want to see him get out of that having a pocket passer mentality. And like we've talked in previous weeks, like we have a guy like Chance Nolan who can scramble out of the pocket. I want to see him have some more versatility other than, because I mean, before he came, Beavers were run, and then some more running. And everybody knew it was coming. And now, yeah, there's some versatility in between the run and the pass game, but I would love for him to come up with something more creative other than having our quarterback stand in the pocket and having to worry about whether our offensive line can hold him there that long so he can get the pass off. I would love for him to implement some plays into that playbook that allow our quarterbacks to be mobile. Because, I mean, once your quarterback's mobile, it opens up the field for so many other things to happen. And I think that he can get that going here at Oregon State, but it's just about if he wants to.
Well, Hef, it sounds like you've finally came to your senses and you're starting to understand what I've been saying here for the past 3 weeks now, is that we need a quarterback who is going to provide that versatility. Luton, as great of a game manager he was, as accurate of a passer he was, he's not the guy who you can really put in a lot of read option or RPOs. He is primarily a pocket passer, but if we want to take that next step, I think we need to add a level of dynamicness to our offense, and that would be utilizing Nolan. But even if we don't, that is not really the thing I want to see him improve on, honestly. I think no matter his personnel, I believe in his ability that he's shown in Idaho, his ability he's shown being the quarterback coach for Washington, and what he's shown his first 2 years here at OSU. He's proven he can put together a good offense. The reason Oregon State loses is not because of our offense. The reason we lose is because our defense can never stop anyone. So I'd like to see him. I don't know if it's directly representative of him as a head coach or if it's his coordinators or what it is, but I want to see more mental toughness from the defensive side of the ball. I don't want to. It seems like a lot of the time you can tell how our defense is going to play based off the first possession. A lot of times, team will march right down the field on us, score, and he goes, "Oh, here we go again. It's going to be a 50-point game. We better hope Luton can put up 400 yards, otherwise we don't have a chance." I rarely ever see our defense bounce back from a tough possession like that and have that toughness. And I wonder if there's a way he can instill that in them to make us, maybe we're never going to be a great defensive team and he's not a defensive coach, but we at least need to be tougher on that side of the ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, let me propose this question for you. With the way that the defense have been the past few years, with Coach Smith going 2-10 and then 5-7 in his second season, do you think that this season, going into a 7-game season compared to a 12-game season, do you think that this season kind of is what the Beavers are riding on when it comes to Coach Smith? Like, is this the make or break year for Coach Smith to show whether or not he is that coach or he's not?
So this is what I'd say. If this was a 12-game season, I think this season would be one of the most important seasons in Oregon State football recent history. The reason I say that is because we went from 1-11 to 2-10 to 5-7. Really, and this is not a biased take. We really could have been and should have been 8-4 last year. We lost 3 games we really should have won. We had the lead with 3 minutes left in 3 games we lost. So we really should have went 8-4. we showed last year we can compete with people. What I wanted to see this year, was that a flash in the pan, or was that the real case? Were we trending upwards? So if we play a 12-game season, I'd say yes. If we were to regress this season, then I think maybe it would be time to be a little bit critical on Smith. Maybe look at replacing him. I think that might be too short at least, but it would have been a year for him. This is really the problem, is it's a 7-game season. We are playing only Pac-12 schools, and we have a new quarterback. It is, I don't want to make excuses for our team, but I can easily see us going 2-5, 1-6, just because it's a short season. We're going to have a brand new quarterback, and we'll have to implement a largely new system. And due to that, I don't think we can fire him on that small of a sample size. On the other side of it, even if we go 4-3, 5-2, I don't know if that shows that we're a legit team either. We could be taking advantage of other teams who are adversely affected from this coronavirus shortened season, you know? So I don't think either way, unless we go 0-7 or 7-0, I really don't know if this season tells us too much about the long-term future of the team.
No, yeah, that's fair. I don't think that you can really put all the weight and the burden on the coach and the players when they've had such a short time to prepare. That we didn't even know if we were going to have football up until a few weeks ago. And I mean, now it's 2 weeks away. How prepared is this team going to be? Yeah, I don't think you can put all that pressure on, especially on Smith. I don't think you can put all that pressure on somebody who couldn't, you can't take things that you can't control and then the organization throw it all on him. This is nothing that he could have, done anything about.
With that being said, though, I think one key metric that I want to look at that is important, I would love to see, I know we got to move on, but I want to quickly throw this out there because I just found this very interesting. The year before Coach Smith came to Oregon State, we were outscored in 12 games by 268 points. That's pretty insane. 12 games, we lose by 268 points. His first year here, we get outscored by 214 points. Still pretty embarrassing. Last year, we got outscored by 16 points. That's kind of a flip of the coin. If you take that Utah game out of it, we're positive. Utah beat us by 49. We're a net negative 16 on the year, right? What I really want to see this year, and what I think would be a step in the right direction, is I really want to see that point differential be positive. I think if we can establish that positive point differential, that shows that we are a legitimate team and we're going to compete. I think that's a realistic goal, and I think that's a fair goal to hold Coach Smith and the team accountable to.
No, yeah, and I agree with you there. Moving on to the next topic, then, let's discuss the defense.
Yep.
So, we've talked a lot about the defense before. The point differential, obviously, coming from our defense. I mean, what do we have to do? What do we have to do with this defense to turn it into a winning defense? Because I mean, you can't win games without a defense. It's gonna back up your offense. Because if your offense is on the field or off the field majority of the game, clearly something's going wrong.
Yeah. The thing I want to say is the main things the defense has to do. There's one guy on that defense that I have complete faith in is going to show up next year. And we both know that's Hamilcar Rashad Jr. He is going to be a first-round pick. I would love it for him if he sneak into that top 15, top 10. That'd be sweet. He's going to show up next year. If he's healthy, he is going to show up. What I think what this team needs is we need another guy on that line to step up. So Hamilcar's not just getting double and triple teamed the whole game, basically neutralized. We need another threat. And then on top of that, we need to be able to stop the run. If we can stop the run, that is going to position us way better than it has been the last few years, because we really haven't ever stopped the run as far as I know since we've been here. We've never got a push. We get pushed off the line just about every time, especially given the fact that we play these teams like U of O and USC who can recruit much higher caliber talent than us. But we really need someone else besides Rashad to step up in that linebacker group or on the line. What do you think as far as what the defense has to do?
Well, I mean, one of the bigger things that we talked about was the point differential. Another thing you should look at is just the average of points that we allowed to be scored against us in a given game. In 2018, it was 45.7 points per game. And then the next year in 2019, it dropped to 35.5 or 32.5, but that's still not good. So I think one of the main things that the defense needs to do this year is to get that average of points that are being put up against us down from at least 25 and under, because if we don't get it any lower than that, if you're letting teams put up more than 4 or 5 touchdowns on you a game, you're clearly not going to win any games.
No, and that's the thing is we allowed 32 points per game, and I feel like this comes back to the mental toughness that I was talking about, because last year against Oregon, who won the Rose Bowl, they scored 21 points on us, if I'm not mistaken. We gave up, at Austin for that matter, we gave up 21 points to the Rose Bowl champs, and really we gave up 14 points. They got a garbage time touchdown when the game was already in the bag. We gave up 14 points essentially to the Rose Bowl winner, but then you're telling me we play a team like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like Arizona or ASU and give up 40-plus points?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I really think it's the toughness. We have the talent, or maybe not, we don't have the talent, but we at least have guys who can compete. It's just I feel like they don't always choose to compete. Yeah, go ahead.
The biggest things with this defense is with how subpar it's been. Every game turns into a shootout, especially with teams that can score the ball. I mean, look at the way we played WSU last year. I know we have some arguments with the Cougar Dash over there about that game, but I mean, if you think about it, 54-53, that's a ridiculous amount of points. And if you're giving up 54 points in a football game, you're clearly not going to win the game. And even though we were close, that lost by 1 point, that's still ridiculous. We could have easily still put up that same amount of touchdowns and points on the board without allowing them to score 54, but it's all on the defense in that point. So shootouts in every game is not going to get us anywhere close to where we need to be. We can't trust the offense. I mean, we can trust the offense, but we can't trust the offense to come out and just ball out every game. It's not possible, because if you have the offense on the field, or if you have the defense on the field for as long as they are, and then the offense, it's pretty much the offense has to come in and score, or we're going to go down by 2-3 touchdowns. It's just, there is no option.
With that being said, Hef, if we are going to have a successful season, if we're going to win games, will we have to do it with defense this year?
I say we do. I really believe that this offense has come into its own, even though we have people that have graduated like Luton and like Hodgins. I just don't think that we can put all the blame on the offense when every year it's defense that kills us. I think this is the year that the defense needs to step up and show their worth, especially with Hamilcar. Are you kidding me? He's definitely going to be a top draft pick. And if you have a guy like that on your team, a leader and a star, why is everybody else around him not picking up on the tendencies that he has? Why is everybody else not understanding that this is what needs to be done? Obviously, it's lackadaisical on our side. The offense needs our help. Hamilcar needs our help. It's just about everybody else picking it up.
You know what really concerns me about Hamilcar, too? That I think you're about to say it, but he is a premier talent. And the fact that we have a premier talent and still have one of the worst defenses, not only in the Pac-12, but in a Power 5 conference, honestly. We have one of the worst defenses in a Power 5 conference. With a talent like that, what that's telling to every other recruit who maybe potentially would want to come to Oregon State that's on the defensive side of the ball, they're asking, why should I come there? Because you just had a guy who was a top 20 pick, and you still couldn't build a defense around him. You still couldn't make bowl games, So this is a year that's not only we have to prove it for the sake of winning games this season, but we have to prove it if we want to have an identity long term. We need to show that if you come here and you're a premier defensive talent, we're going to put you in a position where you can help us win games. Because Hamilcar, as great as he is right now, how much is he really being put in a position where he can win games? Because he is basically neutralized because the defense can just key in on him because there's no other real threats coming from that side of the ball for us. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I agree. What needs to happen is you got to look at football, the game of football in general. You could have a great quarterback, but if you have dudes with stone hands, you're not going to win football games. Same thing with the defense. You could have a top 20 pick in this next. Right, I'm sorry, what?
Is that a shot at the Eagles right there?
Yeah, that's a big shot at the Eagles. Sorry, Regan. The Eagles are bad this year. But no, yeah, it's the same thing with the defense. If you have one star on the defensive end, how is your whole defense supposed to come up and step up like that? If you have dudes that can't cover anybody in any type of scheme and you're getting blown out or having shootouts every game, like one guy isn't going to, do it all for you on the defense. There's plenty of other guys that need to be out there and needing to step up. And like when going back to the last topic we had, is Johnathan Smith really doing the best he can with that defense? I think that he is, but it's about what he can build around after that.
Yeah. The thing I will say, this is definitely a year where the defense has to step up and they have to help us more than they have in years past. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but with everything we've said here, if we're going to be a successful football team, it's going to be because our offense was good, I think. We are going to need a point blank, if we're going to be successful this year, the most important guy to me, aside from Coach Smith and aside from Hamilcar as well, I think we need either Jibia or Nolan to be able to lead the offense. If our offense can average 32 points a game like we did last year, we should have a winning record. Then it's on the defense. If we average 28 or less, then I'm not putting on the defense. The only thing I'm expecting from the defense, you said 25 earlier. I want the defense to be able to hold the opposition to 28 points or lower. I think that gives our offense a realistic shot to win in the Pac-12 in 7 games, in my opinion.
No, yeah, that's fair. 28, 25, same little area, field goal difference. But yeah, no, I agree. It's about keeping points off the board and allowing our offense to stay on the field for as long as they can.
Well, I say let's move right on to this last final topic. It's kind of just a fun one, little thing to get all your weekends going. I'd love to, if you're out in Corvallis this weekend, why don't you just ask someone this when you're at Claude Felter's and see what they think. Hef, who is the greatest Beaver in school history?
Big 8'5", Chad Ochocinco. Chad Johnson is the best player to play in a Beaver uniform. Go ahead, say it. Listen, we have a big generational gap here, my guy.
Have you not heard?
Oh my God.
Of an award called the Heisman.
Yes,
Given
I have.
to the best college football player each year. Oregon State's had one of them, and his name was not Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson might be the best at using social media out of any Beaver football alumni. I'll give him that. He has a funny social media presence. But Terry Baker, he won a Heisman here. How are you going to put Chad Johnson? I keep wanting to call him Ocho Cinco, so if I slip up, forgive me. But how are you going to put a guy who played 1 year here above a guy who won a Heisman for us?
Okay, hear me out. Terry Baker, incredible player. Didn't even come here. Johnny Hekker. Yeah, I mean, Johnny Hecker's a legend too, if we're being honest. Johnny Hecker's also a legend. But kickers get no love. So punters get no love either. But Terry Baker came here originally to play football. Came here to play baseball. The only reason he played football was because that year baseball was rained out. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy, didn't even come to Oregon State to play, football and ends up winning the Heisman Trophy. But can you remind me of what year he won the Heisman?
1961, I believe. Dude,
my grandmother was 20 years old when this man won the Heisman. I'm sorry, I'm not going to consider a guy that was playing when games were in black and white. I can't do it. Do it.
All right, that's fine. But we have a current wide receiver in the NFL who was a better Beaver than Chad Johnson was. And his name is Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks was a better Beaver than Chad Johnson was. Brandon Cooks had a season where he had 1,700 receiving yards and 16 receiving touchdowns. Show me a season where Chad Johnson had anything close to that. He did not. Brandon Cooks was a better Beaver while he was here.
No. I can't agree with that. Chad Johnson came from Santa Monica College and played 1 season here. Brandon Cooks was here for how long? 3 years? 4 years? Was he here for all 4?
3, I believe.
That's enough time to learn a scheme to put up numbers like that. When you're a guy that's coming from a small college, coming to the Pac-12, and then absolutely dominating the Pac-12. And let's keep in mind, he was alongside Johnathan Smith, and dare I say he's one of the reasons that Johnathan Smith took us to the Fiesta Bowl? I do. I say that the reason Johnathan Smith had such a successful year that year was because he had Chad Johnson to huck the ball up to and let him go get it. And, I mean, let's look at it. Chad Johnson should, and hopefully in the future will be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not is a little ridiculous. Same thing with T.O. Both should be Hall of Famers, but clearly the board doesn't want to let them in. I just don't see it. You can't say a guy in the 60s is better than a dude that should be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the NFL coming out in the 2000s. I can't do it.
Okay, so wipe the argument of Terry Baker. We got to chat. Let me see before I rip into you real quick. Jaquiz Rogers. Ooh, it's another interesting one. I like Jaquiz. I don't know. I personally, I wouldn't put Jaquiz up there with Chad Johnson or Terry Baker for that matter, or Brandon Cooks. I think probably the best running back we ever had, but I think these guys are probably superior talents. But I think what you're saying for Chad Johnson, you're basing a lot of your argument on how good he was as a pro. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. I'm admitting that. He's the probably alumni we've ever had, ever at Oregon State. But as his time as a Beaver, he was not the greatest Beaver. One guy you said, I'm actually going to go ahead and say that he might be the greatest Beaver. If I didn't say Terry Baker, I was going to say Johnathan Smith is the greatest Beaver of all time. Because he took us to that Fiesta Bowl, he was a 4-year starter. He went 10-1. And then in that Fiesta Bowl, not only did he take us there, we beat Notre Dame, football powerhouse, everyone's beloved, 10-9. Not only that, but he had the third most passing yards in school history, and he had 55 touchdowns. I'm taking that. I'm taking a 4-year guy. Maybe his peak wasn't as good as Chad Johnson's, and he didn't have the great pro career that Chad Johnson had. But as his time as a Beaver, I think he was second to only Terry Baker.
Okay, but you do understand that year that they went to the Fiesta Bowl, that Chad Johnson was number 1 in the Pac-12 for receiving touchdowns, correct? So obviously Johnathan Smith was throwing the ball up, and guess who went up to get it every single time?
Who is more important? Have you ever heard of a wide receiver win an MVP? Well, you heard a lot of quarterbacks win an MVP, haven't you?
All right.
Because the quarterback is leading the team. That's beside the point. I want to throw this out there. If Johnathan Smith can win us a Pac-12 championship as a coach, I'm going to go ahead and say he is by far, hands down, the greatest figure to Beaver football history. He took us to a Fiesta Bowl as a player, won it. If he can take us to a Pac-12 championship as a coach, I think he is the greatest Beaver figure in history. What do you think about that?
No, I can agree with you there. I mean, if you can do it on and off the field as a coach and as a player, yeah, of course. Johnathan Smith. Now, am I saying he's going to get a statue outside of Reeser? I mean, I'd be down for it. I'd be down for a little Johnathan Smith statue, but I don't think he'll get a statue. But yeah, he would definitely be the top figure at Oregon State, especially in recent years. Mm-hmm. But back to your Terry Baker argument. A guy from the 60s, you're gonna hit me with the guy from the 60s.
A Heisman is a Heisman.
Oh my god, yeah, and a tomato's a tomato, dude. It doesn't matter. You got tomatoes in the fridge for 12 years, it's still a tomato, but it's gonna taste like garbage.
I just don't understand. When you are the best player in college football for a year, how are you not the best player in Oregon State history? He was literally the best player in football in a season. That's never been replicated by another Beaver. I don't care if it was in the 60s. It was still football. Yes, he might have had one bar across his face mask, and maybe all they had was helmet-to-helmet hits, and there wasn't all these penalties, and maybe the guy didn't throw it more than 20 yards ever. I don't know. But what I know is he was a Heisman winner. Anytime you look up Heisman, Oregon State, you're not seeing anyone else except for Terry Baker, and that's a guarantee.
Dude, all I'm saying is you put the film of Chad Johnson next to the film of Terry Baker. It's like taking highlights from LeBron's career and putting it up against when they were shooting with no three-point line. It's not comparable. You can't compare that. You clearly got to take the guy that comes from the generation with more talent, more people watching too, on top of that. And maybe not as much success. He didn't win a Heisman trophy, but dude, he's playing against more talent. I don't care if a dude won a Heisman in the 60s. I'm sorry.
I don't think we're going to come to grips with this. Last thing I'm saying, all you can do is beat the people in front of you. But I don't think we're going to come to grips. We're going to post this clip on Twitter, on YouTube. Let's get the input from the fans, see what they think. Hef, you want to go ahead and send us out?
Yeah, well, thank you everybody for watching tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Beaver Dash. We have columns published exclusively with our new partner, Sports Pack 12, and you can find them at sportspack12.com or follow them on Twitter at sportspack12. Dashboards TV, if you want more shows from Gus and I or our fellow Dashboards streamers, go to Dashboards TV on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram, and check out our own website at dashboards.tv. Until next time, I'm Morgan Heffelfinger.
I'm Gus.
And Terry Baker played in the 60s. Adios, everybody.